I don't remember what was said when I caught you two in bed. But now I sit here drinking shit beer, chasing Johnny Walker Red.
Hi, KiKi Maroon here. Second episode, and we're already jumping into my insecurities. Here's why. I sat down with David Garrick. He's a music journalist based in Houston and hits like 3 to 5 bars a night. He quit drinking, which makes that extra crazy. Well, mid-conversation, he talks about when he was first getting sober and he realized he didn't know how to talk to girls. And that's where I'm at right now. I stopped drinking while in a long-term relationship. That shit's over now, and I'm in my 30s and don't know how to go on dates. I don't know how to talk to men, I don't know how to look at men, and dear God, I definitely don't know how to have sex with men. Which is way different than drunk me. By like a lot. I've narrowed it down to 2 possibilities. Either my lady bits are broken, or I actually have to like them now. And I don't know how to do that. Unfortunately, David selfishly did not have an answer to my problem. So you'll most likely be hearing about this problem a lot more. David also totaled his car and got a divorce, but his story is way different than mine. He and I disagree on a bunch of stuff, mostly friends quitting, tacos, and AA. He is not a fan. So if you have any thoughts about what we talk about, hit me up on Twitter. And here's my talk with David Garrick.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more for now.
If you're going to go to jail in Texas, you should go to Comal County.
Oh, yeah?
It's New Braunfels. They have really great cake. And their jail is pretty new. When I was like the first person in one of the cells years ago. I got arrested for like a warrant that I had already, a ticket I'd paid in or state, but I guess it hadn't been taken out of the computer.
But wait, they had cake in your jail?
Well, they were like, oh, we just served dinner an hour ago, but you can eat too. And it was like, yeah, it had cake and everything. And then in Bexar County in San Antonio, if it's not like, because I mean, like, yeah, I got like PIs and stuff, and so I got a PI in San Antonio, and they put me in the women's jail because what they did was they built a women's jail and then realized real quick, oh, we don't have that many female criminals in this county. So they're only on like 2 floors.
Because I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, and then the rest are all like people that aren't like violent crimes. So, and there it's like a Hilton.
Shut up!
I swear to God. So there's 3 rooms. I apologize. There's an attached rec room where you can go out at any time of the day and play handball or shoot baskets. I'm not making this up, right?
Okay.
Then the bathrooms are private. Like, there's a wall that you can't see, like the guy at the desk, because it's not like in Houston where there's 5 pods and then a dude in a little tower.
Yeah.
The sheriff's in the room with you in the women's jail. But he's like in the room where the beds are, and he sits at a desk, and they have a TV at the front of the room where these sheriffs just show bootleg movies or TV shows or whatever that they ripped off the web. And the bathrooms are like off in the corner, and the showers, and then all of the toilets have like little walls. There's not doors, but there's walls there. So
you had privacy?
Yeah. And then they'll let you sleep all day in Bexar County, whereas I guess in Harris County you got to get up at a certain time and you can sit on your bed, but you can't actually sleep.
Yeah. Well, I was in a fetal position on the floor in the corner, freezing. The restroom was a toilet in the middle of the room.
Right. The holding cell thing?
Yeah, that thing. And there was 0 cake. There was exactly 0 cake.
Yeah, Harris County's a little bit different. It's like, here is a bag with 2 pieces of bread, some bologna, some mustard, and then this little peanut butter cookie thing with peanut butter and jelly on it, which I don't know if any of that is actually what it is. I don't know. Like, it's, yeah. And then
what was his PI in San Antonio? Was it Riverwalk, I'm guessing?
No. I was walking home from a party, or back to like where I was staying. I wasn't living there at the time, and I was with some friends. And I asked the cop in the morning, I said, hey, how did you know I was drunk? He's like, oh, you had like a 18-pack of beer. And the bottom fell out of it, and all of the beers rolled into the street, and on all fours you were scooping them up as cars were whizzing past you.
Oh, my my God.
And I was like, oh, that sounds about right. You know? So
I just didn't want to litter.
yeah, it wasn't the first time I got popped for that. You know, it's just like a night in jail, but it's when you've had it happen like 5 or 6 times, it's kind of like maybe I have a problem. You know?
Oh my God!
It still took another 5 years to stop, but yeah.
Okay, so you do all these like music reviews, and you wrote for Houston Press, Free Press.
I mean, you kind of have to run back a little bit. I worked for Summerfest, and I noticed that younger people don't know, and this is not like, because this is every person when they're young. I was this way when I was young. Everyone, they kind of didn't have a scope of what had happened maybe 10 years before.
Yeah.
And so it was just a thing where you're like, oh, you know, it'd be great is if I could write about stuff and compare modern bands to past bands, and you could be like, oh, well, you're introducing them. You know? And
if you like this, you'll love this.
Right. This band sounds like this, and they don't know who this is, so they look it up. And I had bands, when I first started doing it, they'd be like, I'd never even heard of this band, and they're amazing. It's like, yeah, they're not around anymore, which is a shame, because up to like 2 years ago, you could have seen them. But whatever. And, yeah, through Summerfest, I ended up, I don't remember, I think it was Omar's wife said they were looking for somebody, and I should apply, and I did, and it took them forever, but then I worked for them. I worked for them for about 4 years, and then last year I left to go to Houston Press because it's a bigger audience. It's a wider demographic. When you write about music, you kind of basically you can get stuck in a rut, and so that's what was happening at Free Press, where it was just like, okay, I want to write about more stuff.
How are you stuck in a rut? I feel like you're at like 5 concerts a night.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I mean is like what you write and the style you write in, you want to change it, and you don't feel like you can do it at a place. And I know that's a stupid idea now, but at the time I thought, oh, I've got to get out of here. I got to go do this somewhere. So, like an example would be, it didn't happen, but I got offered to interview Styx.
Oh, I just saw Styx.
Yeah.
Like a week ago, yeah.
It was for that concert.
Oh, okay.
It didn't happen because I was kind of a jerk. I was like, I only want to do Tommy Shaw. But like...
Tommy or nothing.
Yeah.
Did you go to the concert?
I didn't go.
Oh my God, David. It was so good.
I've seen him with this new guy. It's really good. But I just kind of felt like Tommy Shaw because he's from the South and he's got a sense of humor. We could joke about whatever. And so... but that would have never come at Free Press because it's not as big a paper, and it doesn't have the demo. These papers are all set up by demographic, and so I got hired at Houston Press because I can bring a younger demographic to it. So where the editor will know who Styx or The Cult or Dashboard Confessional is, she doesn't know who Snail Mail, Shame, or Phoebe Bridgers are.
I don't know that either, but I think I'm old now.
No, it's not. Music is a thing where if you... There's a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was on radio when I was in high school. He's a really great resource, and I've stayed friends with him a long time. But if you ask him, well, when was the best music, he'll give you this time frame, and it just happens to be between his 18th and 25th year.
I feel like that's everybody,
and everybody's
though.
that way. Yeah,
everybody's like that.
People get to about 26, 27, and they're like, oh, well, there's no more good music, or this all sounds the same. And if you write about it, you have to open your ears really big and go, okay. You look past the fact that it sounds like something that came out 10 or 20 years ago, and you just judge it on its own merit. So.
Okay, so I want to ask you something about that, because I always feel like, oh my God, there's so much fucking music now. I can't, like, it's overwhelming. Is that like the actual, like, oh, because of the internet and Spotify and all that? Or is it just that I'm old?
It's not
like, do kids also feel that way of like, there's so much music I can't keep up?
I don't think... Every now and again, a kid will say they can't keep up, but okay. I think they literally just focus on what they focus on. And a good example would be this. So there's a guy named Mike Watt. He was in the Minutemen in the 70s and 80s, punk band. And then he's gone on and done a million things. He's played with the Stooges, and he's on like 2 Stooges records with Iggy Pop and whatnot. But when Mike Watt came one time, I said, well, there's so many fucking bands now. And he's like, oh, well... In the 30s, there were like 3 times as many bands, because there's these musician registries. Now, I'm not going to say he's wrong, because he's fucking Mike Watt. He's a legend, and he's a really great dude. But I don't know if that registry is counting studio musicians. You know what I mean? Like, or guys in a big band, but they weren't touring individually. it feels like there's more now. There's more than it might be the same, and we just know about them because of all the internet stuff.
I definitely feel like that a lot.
Because we did not know about them. I know that. Like, these guys that book festivals, a lot of times, somebody said to me last year, well, there aren't any real big bands anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, think about it. Like, now everybody's a middle to low level band. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that. It's because...
What do they call that? The something tail? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Where it's like there's the top tier is lower than it used to be, but then the bottom tier goes on forever, basically. And so it's like a little diagram where the bottom the chart just goes on.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it. I know that the reason you're not hearing about, the reason there aren't big bands is because all of that is essentially false. What record labels used to do is they would throw money at radio companies and give them money to play songs, and then they would run out these giant ad campaigns and it would boost sales and whatnot. And that model's pretty much done because there is no real radio. There is radio, but it's not the same. And so things like podcasts and Spotify are the new radio. So when you look at, there's now people hire PR firms, and there's some that are great, and there's some that are terrible. There's some that are $10,000 a month, and there's some that are $750 a month. So, it feels like there's way more. I mean, I don't think that's an age thing. I think that's just real. I mean, and then there's people that kind of come in and go. I mean, I've written album reviews for people that broke up after the album came out, and then they've never done anything since. And some of that's youth. Some of it is being able to go to Guitar Center and for $1,200 get a guitar, get an amp, get headphones, get the recording gear, and then just plug it into your computer and just record everything.
Yeah, everybody's a recording studio, like us right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
I can't complain about it.
But it's not an age thing. I know how that feels. Mm-hmm. I had to resolve.
Do you though? Because you're like, again, you go to like 5 concerts a night. I feel like you are even younger people. I don't think do that, but that is so. I don't know how you have the energy to do that.
Well, the not drinking is a factor. Yeah. It really is. I mean that sincerely. Like, if somebody's like, I don't get how you don't do this, and it's like, well, I don't have kids. Mm-hmm. And I own my own other business, and that kind of runs itself, so I don't have to work hard. And then, I don't really do anything in the day. I just kind of go out, and then you're not having to pay. So basically getting in and out of your car is the biggest hassle. Yeah. So...
but people are a hassle, David.
People are a hassle, but you kind of... I look at it like the bands I can't hear in time. I'm just one person, and so I can't really worry about what I can't get to. You focus on what you can focus on, and that's it. So
what made you stop drinking? Were you already a music journalist when you decided to do this, or was it after the fact?
I was in radio, and I wasn't really... I hadn't gone to the corporate side of things yet. I guess I was on-air talent is what you call that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were a jock?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was short-lived. I worked for a company that got bought by Clear Channel, and they ended that. And they had every right to. I was not good. But
I wish more of them knew that.
Well, I mean, that whole world is hilarious. It's like it's like little fish that hang around a big fish, and they eat whatever the big fish doesn't eat, and they're trying to build a career. And I understand radio is such a convoluted and, pardon my language, really ass-backwards model, because I remember one time at Clear Channel, I used to do this thing where I would say, I'll put my bonus on the line if this song isn't a hit, because I cared about music so much. And I got called in somebody's office, and they're like, what do you think we do here? And I was like, we play music, and we have ads, and the ads pay for us to be able to play music. And they're like, we sell tamales and televisions.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Don't quit putting your bonus on the line.
We're commercial vehicles.
Yeah. And so because the ads are so important to them, they don't want to play new music because they want to play proven hits, because they don't want people to turn the dial, even though 22 fucking minutes worth of ads are enough reason to never turn on your fucking radio.
Or
unless you're using
22 of the same song in an hour.
Right. Before I left the second time, because I went back and worked for them again, but for their entertainment division, I said, I saw this thing in Europe. And it was Spotify, but I didn't know what it was called. I was like, where these people were like on their laptop, they could listen to anything they wanted. And they're like,
Shut
and
your
how much
mouth,
is it?
David.
And I was like, it's free.
Laptop music?
And they just like, I remember they were like, oh, that won't work. The labels will never sign on for that. And we are where we are today. And so...
But going back, okay, so you were working at this place. So you were not quite doing the journalism yet. What made you do, like,
I was
what
married.
Happened? Was it all, okay.
And she was like 4'10". She was really small. And I was scared to death of her. And she told me if I didn't quit drinking, that she was going to leave. And then I wrecked my car.
You did?
The first cop I went to high school with, so I didn't get a DWI.
Okay. You wait. You wrecked your car and didn't get a DWI?
No.
That is bullshit, David.
I know.
I'm sorry, but as someone who...
I know.
God
I'm not
damn
saying
it,
it's fair. I'm
David.
just being sincere. That's what happened.
That it cost me like $25,000.
Oh, no. This still cost a lot of money because I did wreck a $140,000 Benz. So, but no. And I'm not demeaning it because I should have gotten in trouble and I didn't. And the cop was like, my sister, she died of alcoholism, which I didn't know. You need to get help. And he's like, I'm going to make sure you get help. And in my head, I thought, whatever, just drop me off in my fucking house and I'll never see your ass again. And he was waking me up at 5 in the morning, like, we're going to rehab. And
oh my God.
I talked him out of rehab. I said, I'll just do AA. And so I quit. And it takes some people 5 or 6 times, and I just quit the first time. And at first in my head, I was like, I'll do this just long enough to get everybody off my back, and I'll go back to it. But, I mean, my ex-wife, to her credit, was a whip cracker, and so she was on me the whole time. And in those first 90 days, we moved from Houston to San Antonio. And, like, I mean, just everything was stressful. New job, new title, more money. I had to find a place to live,
you could not drink during
and I couldn't
this.
drink, and I never say bad stuff about AA, but the AA groups in San Antonio suck. Because in Houston,
he says bad stuff about San Antonio. So
in Houston, you've got something like 210 a day, and you've got like 4 or 5 in San Antonio. And this is, keep in mind, this is 15 years ago, so it's probably way better now. But at the time, it was like everyone you went to. There's this thing sometimes at Alcoholics Anonymous where you're like, you kind of tell a kind of personal story, and somebody's like, "Shut the fuck up! There's no personal shit here," And
wait, what? I've never heard that.
Yeah, like
AA.
the old timers for sure.
I thought the whole point was to tell personal stories.
No, I mean, like, you're telling I got accused of this, and I will gladly admit it, that they thought I was telling stories for the laughs, and I totally was. You know,
were treating it like
I had these. Yeah, I was treating it like open
spotlight.
mic. Yeah. Like, hi, my name is David, and I'm an alcoholic. So, anybody here from Denver? Like, almost like
God.
that. No. But it was because I chose to tell stories that were hilarious. So,
So it wasn't no personal stories. It was no hamming it up.
Well, no. Those old guys, what they mean is they want you to talk about your process. They don't want to hear these stories. Like I don't really know what their mindset is, but that in old AA, that's how it was. It was kind of like, just come and talk about why you're grateful to be sober, what you did to get sober.
Oh, we want to talk about the current, not the past.
Right. And so
I'm not experienced that. That's interesting.
But I went to AA for, I don't know, probably 18 months straight. And every time I'd be in a city, I'd go. And then I tried to start a group in year 2 in Austin, because at that point, separated, sold the house in San Antonio that we had built, and then moved to Austin. Because, like I said, they broke my contract. All of that happened in like 6 months. It's like insane.
Did the sobriety have anything to do with the separation, or was it?
Oh,
just
it totally did. Yeah.
Oh, but okay. Wait. So she was like, "You stay sober, or I will leave you." And then once you were sober, she left, or you left, or you were like, "No, I'm sober. I don't like you."
So she left. Look, I can badmouth her, and I kind of will to a degree to see what happens.
At least you're honest.
But I will say this: all she really wanted me to do was grow up, and I was 25 years old, making $250,000. Why the fuck did I need to grow up? You know, I mean.
So she saw the no drinking as a part of it was a larger thing. That was just the thing to point at.
Yeah, and I mean, what happens sometimes is you should be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what you'll get. And in that instance, she went from, yes, I was drunk all the time, but I was also like, what are you upset about? Here's a credit card. Go to Hermes and get anything you want. Here's a credit card. Go to Vuitton and get anything you want. I mean, I had Burberry dog bowls at my fucking
Jesus
house.
fucking Christ, David.
And Gucci dog toys.
We're supposed to be making you relatable on this podcast.
I know. But this is also a long time ago, and I made a lot more money. But it was a thing where we lived very well. I mean, we both had nice German cars. We had a beach house. I mean, we always lived in a nice place. We never made dinner, which is ironic because we built a house with an oven that cost as much as a car, and she never cooked. But whatever. So yeah, she went from me just kind of like, here's a check or here's a credit card, to being like, how much does this cost? And so, because when you're sober, you know how much money is going out the door.
You're not in the haze.
Yeah, and you're like, wait a minute, I make $18,000 a month, and I'm like left with like $1,200. What the fuck is going on? And it's like, oh, I've got a $900 car payment on a car that's not mine, and an $1,100 car payment on my car, and yeah, just dumb shit. I mean, because you're a kid and you don't know what you're doing. I remember one time going into Vuitton and being like, oh, I'll get all the luggage, like it was just so. But that's what I'm saying is
not drunk problems that I had, but that's why I like this.
Right?
We see everybody's drunk problems.
Sure, and so so yeah, she got somebody that was really more focused on day-to-day life, because there was a lot that happened. I didn't have a car, and I had to figure that out. And that took a while, so I was having to use her car, which, and I bought it, but still, like it was her car, and so we had to share a car for about a month, and then we moved to San Antonio, and we had to share a car for another, 6 weeks before I got a car.
So it was just like massive stress all piled up at once.
Sure, and I mean, I get it, man. Like, I would have left me too, And I mean, there was more to it. There was infidelity on her part, but I didn't find that out till later. I mean, she just wanted out, and I get it. Like, I don't fault her. And I'll be honest with you, she was the smart one, because I would have stuck it out another 10 years and been like, I will fix it,
Yeah, and then it's unhappy and unhappy.
Right.
Unhappy, and then you're drinking again.
Right. And so, yeah, she's who got me to quit, because I was literally scared of her, because she was just like
was she sober,
taskmaster.
or was she just not
No,
drinking
but she
as
wasn't
much?
like me.
Okay.
There's like two types of people. There's people that can drink a glass of wine a day and it not be a thing. And I was always like, let's get to the end of this bottle. One of the guys that owns Poison Girl used to work at Rudyard's, and that's where I drank all the time. And he was just like, I don't know if you're an alcoholic or just really thirsty, because I would like knock back a bottle pretty quick. And and then when you have unlimited funds and you have an expense account, you can drink Johnny Walker Blue whenever you want and not think twice about it. And you're just getting wasted all the time. And because there's things in place in a corporation that is giving you all this money set up for people that are alcoholics, you're enabled the whole time to just keep it going. As long as your work doesn't suffer, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And so
I always think about that, like if I watch like Mad Men or something like that, how they have the bar in the office. And previously I was like so jealous. I'm like, man, that'd be so great. And now I'm like, oh,
this is so hilarious. And your friend Outlaw Dave can tell you this is true. All those old executives had wet bars in like a closet or something like that. When you would go to the Clear Channel headquarters, I don't know where the hell they are now, but it was in San Antonio when I worked for them. And yeah, I remember like all those guys had a wet bar.
Oh, I believe it.
It was so like 1968, you were just expecting like some buxom redhead assistant to kind of be like, anything you want, Mr. Carter? So like, yeah, it was just...
It's set up for that. I mean, there's so many industries set up for that though, because while I was not rich, I'm not gonna say rich, but I was very, very poor. I was a stripping
upper middle class.
Okay,
yeah.
I did not have funds for drinks. However, being a performer meant having comp tabs everywhere that you go, and so usually places that wouldn't even pay would be like, oh, but we'll give you a bar tab. We'll give you a bar tab. Like, oh, sure, that's the same thing. I would have spent $100 on drinks anyways. Right. You see it as just comparable, even though you're not paying your rent. And so, like you said, it's just very much enabled, and you don't see it as being an issue.
No, I mean, even now, everywhere I go, somebody's like, "Can I get you a drink?" Or, with the exception of one or two venues. I mean, like, I don't even have to pay for topo. I mean, you tip well enough and you're at a place enough. It's like, whatever, like, so, but yeah, somebody asked once, and I mean, because the person that said it pissed me off when they said it. I'm not going to say who it was, but they were like, oh, don't you regret quitting drinking? And I was like, no, like I've made a lot of really bad decisions, and I mean, I don't even think I made that decision. It probably took a year for it to actually be my decision, because after she left, she was so like mean. I remember thinking, well, she wants me to start drinking again. I'm going to show her, you know?
That's the best kind of spite, though.
Yeah. And so, like,
I was just about to ask that because I know. So I went through a breakup and my ex was sober. And so I had so many people ask, like, oh, so you can start drinking now? And I was like, no, this had nothing, it didn't have to do with him. It so happened that he was sober and it made it easier to have someone to talk to. I will admit that. But I didn't want it to be attached to him. And I actually got to this point where I did not want to talk to him. And I started going to AA to not associate my sobriety with him because I was so worried of like, okay, if this fails, which it did, I don't want to then like spiral just because, oh, well, fuck you.
Right.
And so we didn't talk about it as much.
I don't know what it is. Like, it's funny, like, when you go to AA, no one tells you this, and you got to be in about a year before you really start to see it. But one, and again, I usually don't talk bad about AA, but I don't go, and I don't have my 10-year chip, and I didn't get my 15-year chip last year. And I look, it did great for me. My younger brother quit drinking about 8 years ago, and it did great for him. But he hit me up early on. He goes, "These are the most fucking judgmental people I've ever met in my life." And I go, "Oh yeah, that's how it is."
Oh my god!
And like,
either I have a different version of judgmental, or I'm going to different meetings. This makes me sad that y'all had those experiences.
Well, for me, like I said, when I was in Austin, I'm like, I'm gonna start a group for people I know that work in bars because some of them had like 3 or 4 DWIs, and this is before they passed that 3 strikes thing in Texas.
Oh yeah, I know plenty of bartenders with multiple.
And like, I was like, oh, we'll do it in a bar. And so the way AA used to work, to get the big books, you had to get approval from your home group. So I came down to Houston and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And they're like, absolutely not.
Because in a bar?
Yeah. And I was like, we don't have anywhere else to meet. And they're like, well, find a place. And I was like, fuck all of you. There's people in this room that have fucking vehicular manslaughters, and you're going to judge
Jesus
me
Christ.
for fucking having a meeting in a bar? I'm trying to help people. Who gives a shit if we're meeting in a porn theater? You know? It might be messy, but, you know, like, it's...
I understand them not wanting to put
Sure.
a stamp of approval on what they saw as temptation.
Sure. But here's how I've always looked at that. If you're that tempted, you're going to do it anyway. Because here's the reality. People can say, well, do you go down the beer aisle? Yeah. I don't get beer. I'm usually at the Kroger on Montrose. It's like, oh, I got to pee, and the bathroom's down that hall.
Yeah.
But you can't walk down the baking aisle, because if you look at the cheapest, it's a known thing in the grocery industry that hobos will, or homeless, if hobo is the wrong...
Well, I'm not
wrong,
PC. I don't
yeah.
care. I know what you meant.
They will steal extract. And the cheaper the extract, the more alcohol it has in it.
Oh, the vanilla extract? Yeah.
So, like, Adams has a smaller amount, but when you get down to a brand you've never heard of, it's like 85% alcohol, if not 90. And you just chug it real fast, and it'll get you loaded really quick.
I actually heard a news story about this woman that got arrested because there was some cop off some rural road somewhere, and they kept finding just tiny vanilla extract bottles just littered across the road, and realized she was drinking and driving and just tossing them out the window.
And so if I look at, like, so you're that tempted, so you can't walk down the beer aisle. Now you can't go down the baking aisle. Oh, don't go in the pharmacy because 90% of the fucking cold medicine has... I mean, I remember getting told, like, you can't have NyQuil. And I'm like, look, man, if NyQuil turns me...
That I wasn't really.
Yeah, I wasn't really. And there's this thing where you quit. I remember before I went to AA, I had quit, and we went to Italy on vacation, and we were in a situation where it was shitty water, because they didn't have bottled water, or beer. And I had not drinking for, like, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, which they say that's being dry. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just drink a beer. And then that I ended up drinking the rest of the trip. But I never looked at it like one drink would trigger me. I just kind of feel like it's a mindset. I've looked at it like, oh, if I do this, I'll die. And you have to get rid of a lot of your friends, and you have to kind of rebuild your life. And I know it's got to be hard for you. And it would be hard for me now because I've built a different network. It would be harder, I think, to quit. But, I mean...
Yeah. See, I'm going to just throw this in there.
Yeah.
That's what I was terrified of. And I think even though I wanted to quit for a long time before I did, I had this fear that meant I was going to have to get rid of all my friends, change my whole life, do all these different things. And I didn't. I will say, I did have some friends change, But it wasn't about the drinking because I mean, my roommates still party. I'll tell you that right now. I still go out. I do all these shows. I'd go out with Outlaw Dave. I'm usually the designated driver, honestly. So I'm fine with that. But I will say that the friends that I did shift from, it wasn't like, oh, they're drinking, I don't want to be around them. It was like, oh, I didn't realize I don't like you.
Yeah.
So
that's
that was
true.
definitely like just the amount that I could tolerate.
Right. It was 5 years before I went into a bar.
Really?
Yeah. And here's the best part. So actually, that's not true. There were a couple times where we would do remotes or we would be giving away a motorcycle or something.
I went
like
out
that.
more than ever because I was so scared of changing. I was like, look at me, prove that I'm the same. And I went to bars I didn't want to go to.
What is the saying? It works if you work it. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I was like, there were times where we would be at like a bar, but a bar in San Antonio ain't the same as a bar in Houston because San Antonio is... I'm going to talk some mad shit, but San Antonio is like a city where it sucks to be single and not have a kid because everybody you meet has a kid.
Yeah.
And back then, nobody really seemed to... it sounds old to say back then. This is like 2001, 2002, but it was like nobody really checked IDs, it seemed, because you'd meet girls that are like 15, you'd be like, oh, like, you have a kid? You're like, in your head, you're like, cool, so she's at least 18. And then like,
Nope.
it's like, oh yeah. I was like, what do you got going on Monday? Like, I got class. And you're like, oh, what are you taking in college? She's like, oh, I'm not in college yet. And you're like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?
Well, I'm from San Antonio originally, and I always tell people the teen pregnancy rate. We were the number one in the country when I was living there, and we had daycares in not only our high school but in our middle school.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, we had daycare. I knew a girl in 8th grade that had twins. And people were excited for her.
Oh no, I
because
could see that.
oh my God, Mija, you're gonna have your little girls, and that's where I came from.
It's a completely different culture there.
It
really
is.
and there's a lot of things about San Antonio that are great. I will say that I have not been back since I left. Like
My parents are there, so I still visit often, and I do think that there is a culture shift. I think that for a long time it was just accepted that that's like, oh, that's how
Sure.
you grow up. You have kids when you're young, all this stuff, and there are enough people trying to, I guess, break the cycle.
No, that's true. There's plenty of things,
But it's gonna take a
especially
while.
music-wise. Music is a good way to look at it, where I'm like, okay, Austin is probably a year behind New York and L.A.
Okay.
Houston's 5. San Antonio's 10.
San Antonio is like super metal, though.
Rio Grande Valley's 15 or 20. And yeah, no, it is. We used to say Metal or Morrissey. I remember
Oh yeah, yeah.
something like King Diamond played some giant arena and Paul McCartney played in an actual smaller capacity place.
I believe that.
Like
I didn't know like most Depeche Mode songs were from the 80s. I thought it was super current because they were always playing
Yeah.
it on the radio.
Yeah, radio down there is interesting, I'll say. Like it's San Antonio's a different world and it's gotten way better. I mean, but for the longest time it was just kind of this place, and now that promoters are focusing on there rather than Austin, it seems to have gotten better. But back to the thing. No. It's different for everybody. I quit when I went to the bar and it had been 5 years. I remember that the first thing I noticed was no one's life had changed. Everybody was sitting in the same spot. Everybody was, and I remember this guy's like, hey, where were you last weekend? And I was like,
Shut up.
I hadn't been in here in a while. He's like, no, I saw you last weekend. And it's like, no, dude, I hadn't been here in 5 years, man. Like, and that's what it is that you kind of go on. Everybody's life is that way. You feel like you ever have that, if you ever work in a restaurant and somebody's rude to a customer and that customer calls up and they're like, I'm in there all the time. And you look up the last time their card was swiped and it's like 2 years ago. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But time kind of stops when you do the same thing every day.
It does. It totally does. And there's things in Rudd's that I remember when they got put in. And I remember, and it's all great. Everybody at Rudd's has always been great to me. And even when they found out that, wait a minute, you've been coming here 10 years and you're 27? What the fuck? So
I will say, when I talk to people about this, I always think it's one of the unexpected consequences. What's the word for good consequence?
I don't know.
One of the unexpected effects of not drinking. I do so much more, and it's not even just like concerts or whatever. I'm like, I want to learn how to fly a plane, or I'm going to go travel and go to Mexico or whatever. Because previously, I felt very busy, But it's because, like you said, every day, if I was bored, I was going to go to a bar.
Right.
Because there was always a thing that was going on. And so I was just going to go drinking and just get shit-faced and, I don't know, throw glasses and cause chaos and have fun every single day. And so when that was no longer an option, I'm still a really antsy person. Like, I want to do shit and I have a lot of energy.
No, I agree.
And so at first I had a little bit of a depression where I was like, I'm boring. I don't know what to do with my life. And then I realized, like, oh, there's like so much shit I can do. And so I have that energy. And so it's forced me, like, if I'm bored, just going and having a drink is not an option. I'm going to have to find some fucking shit to do. And it's been awesome because I had no idea. I was like, I met a girl who like pilots planes, and I didn't know there was a school.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yeah,
just
either.
a little far, like just like right outside of Houston that you can go. And it costs money, but it's fair.
Right.
But probably no more than my bar tab.
Right. No, that's true.
And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll learn how to fly a fucking plane.
I think happy incident might be the phrase.
Like the painter. No, that's a happy accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like lost.
It was just I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. I just thought, oh, I won't be hungover, I won't be sick, and I won't sleep with people I don't like.
Right.
But a bunch of other great stuff happened too.
There are little things they tell you in AA, and one of them is like, well, every time I drank, I didn't go to jail, but every time I'd been to jail, I'd been drinking. And like, I can attest that doesn't have to be the case, because I found out, matter of factly, that I had like a whole bunch of traffic tickets I hadn't paid in like a decade, and got to deal with that. But
well, it's true for me. I need that on a shirt.
yeah, no, it's true. I think it's, for me, it's just kind of like, well, see, and I don't even think about it anymore. In fact, I'll be honest with you, my sobriety date passed, and I was like, somebody said, hey, how long have you not drinking? It was like 2 days after. I was like, 2 days ago it'd been 15 years.
I'm the same way. I don't keep track.
I don't. And I don't go to AA anymore, and it's nothing against it. When I wanted to start that group, they didn't want me to do it, and I was like, I'm not coming back till somebody dies. And then this really sweet old lady that went there passed away, and I had to go to her damn funeral, and that sucked. But
I didn't think I would be. I didn't go to AA for the first, year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't know. I didn't go to AA at first because I was like, oh, I don't need it. And I went because I was traveling one time, and honestly, it was just like, I'm bored. I heard, my therapist suggested it, and I was like, you don't know, but she knew. And I really like it. And I think it's not, yes, sometimes it's really sad, but the reason why I want to do this podcast, I like hearing people's stories, and I'm like,
sure.
Oh, okay, like I'm not alone. It's really what it comes down to.
I will say this. I have 3 friends that wanted to get sober. So I have been a couple times. Mm-hmm. But when they're like, do you want to be my sponsor? I'm kind of like, I'm not the guy, man. Mm-hmm. Like because I won't keep up. My sponsor, Dennis, who's such a sweet guy. He's such a sweet, sweet man. He lost track of me, and he saw me. I was doing a consulting gig for Greenpeace, and I was teaching these kids how to give this pitch, and he's like, "Oh my God! Like, I thought you'd gone back to drinking." And I was like, "No, dude, I don't go to meetings really anymore." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "It's just not."
You should have said, "I did." Thanks, Dennis.
Right.
Thanks.
But
I asked a friend to be a sponsor the first time I tried to quit. I tried so many times before I actually did. And I called him crying after a really bad night. I slept with a Magic the Gathering player, but a bunch of other stuff happened too. But I called him the next day crying, and was like, I can't do this anymore. And he was sober, and can you help me? He's like, wait, do you want me to sponsor? And I was like, we don't have to use that word. I really just accountability. If you could help me out. And he got so excited. I'm going to be your sponsor. I said, okay. Started texting him that evening because I had a show at Outlaw Dave's, and I was like, I'm really worried. This is going to be my first time. Fucking silence. I sent him a text like maybe an hour later. Hey, it's just like, I'm really concerned because I know everybody's going to ask me for shots, blah, blah, blah. Silence. Nothing. And I was like, while it is not his fault, I was like, fuck it. I guess it's time to drink. And so I did get very drunk, and I was angry at him the next day. Not his fault. I know that now.
Right. The place I always take people is Lambda, which is here in Montrose.
What's that?
It's like in the Montrose Center. The reason I say go to that one is if you can get through one of those meetings without A, crying, or B, thinking you deserve the right to drink, because there's people at Lambda that for whatever reason are dying. They maybe have cancer, they might have complications of AIDS. Mm-hmm. it's a lot of things. It just seems like that's where they gravitate to. And you go there and there's somebody's like, the doctor says I have 6 days to live and I'm still sober. And I'm just like, okay, you win. You're way better than me. And you're just, I mean, like that kind of shit is just mind blowing. Yeah. And so I don't ever think about myself drinking again. But when people are like, oh, I want to quit. Yeah, I'm kind of a dick about it. I'm like, oh, are you willing to give up your friends and stuff like that? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, because you don't. There is this shitty thing.
We go about this so completely opposite, David.
Well, but it is. It's a shitty thing that guys tell you early on in AA. That I used to hear these old guys be like, well, you got to pick the winners and losers. And I'd be like, what do you mean? They're like, some people are going to get it and some people aren't. Now, I don't take that view, but you do kind of have to get a little tough love with people and go, are you ready to you're going to change, you have to change things in your life. And I'm just being honest. Like, you're going to have to change some stuff. You can't go hang out in the bar.
Yes, you have to change stuff, but I think you're trying to scare them away from it versus I'm trying to be like, it's okay. It's actually easier than you think.
Well, that's why I tell
on.
people I'm not the guy to be your sponsor because I'm not. And like, but see, you're different than me. You could go to the bar. I couldn't. I was like, oh, I don't want to go because I didn't trust myself. And I had this friend named Eric, and he had been sober at the time when I quit, like 10 years. And he was like, oh, you can't go to the bar. I was like, but you work in a bar.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it had been about 5 years. So that was my head. And then I asked another friend, Jason, who was in a band here in Houston. And I was like, hey, man, when did you start going back to the bar? He's like, it'd been about 5 years.
Really?
And so that's just, I was like, oh, I guess that's how it is.
I'm just so spiteful and angry. And I'm like, you're not going to tell me what to do. But to be fair, it was a mind fuck for a long time. And it took me a while just to be a normal person.
Yeah, and I didn't want to go through that. And that's before you get into, I mean, like, there was a lot of hurdles that are not actual hard hurdles. They're not like, oh, I couldn't afford to eat or anything like that. But I remember going out and trying to talk to women and realize, oh, I suck at this. And
oh my God, like, I can talk about that all fucking day.
Like, just so bad. Like,
I'm still in that. Let me, okay. This is what we're getting to. Sorry, I'm very excited
now.
You're good. Because you've been sober for so much longer than me. I am still learning how to do this. I got sober while in a long-term relationship and am now not in said relationship.
Right.
I don't know how sober people meet people. My previous experience was get fucked up, sleep with someone, and never see them again or see them for like 5 years afterwards. That is how I dated people. I'm like, oh, where do people meet? How do I talk to them? How do I deal with this? Tell me, David, I'm lonely.
I literally hate saying this, and this makes me sound like an asshole. I haven't dated anybody that's sober.
Well, that's fine. They don't have to be sober. I just don't know where to meet them.
I mean, I kind of like through your normal life is how I kind of look at it. I mean, there is no meeting spot, but if you go to AA, you're not supposed to touch anybody in AA for like 3 years. I don't know if they still push that, but that's the way it used to be.
I don't care if I don't need them to be sober. I'm just saying if like me getting fucked up at a bar is not an option, I don't know then how to converse with people. So
this becomes a thing, and this is a thing that about a year ago I was at a bar here in town, and I was like, complimented. This went with the old traditional, like your shoes or whatever the fuck. And this girl's like, oh, what are you drinking? And I was like, Topo. I was like, why do you want something to drink? She was like, are you trying to get me drunk? And then I like just turned it like real fast. I was like, yeah, the last thing I want to do is fuck a drunk chick. You know? Like, and there's this thing where there's people that will.
Did that work, David?
No, but women don't want to go near you if you're like, oh, I don't drink, because then they feel like you have an unfair advantage over them. And I'm kind of like, do you not know how the world works? I mean, if a guy sees you're drinking, he'll just drink less, you know?
Yeah.
There's very few times.
It's not just women. I'm telling you, guys have flipped out about me not.
Oh, no,
I'm
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Or it's just like, no, that they think that I'm trying to fuck with them, or it's weird, or I guess there's like that thing of like, oh, I'm going to remember shit, which I will. I'm not going to lie. I do remember things that you don't. Yeah. But they get very weird about it. And so I don't know how to do that.
I think you kind of just meet who you meet and you gauge them. Look, I said this to someone the other day. It's really shitty to say to someone, but I met this girl. She's very sweet. She drinks. She smokes weed. I don't care. Whatever. Because I know at this point in my life, it's not going to affect me. But I was like, oh, I don't go to that place because the people that run it are scumbags. And I gave her all these examples. She's like, well, I'm going to go to that show. And I was like, wow, really? I expected more out of you. And it's such a shitty thing to say.
So judgy.
But it was just like, you know what I mean? You thought, oh, man, this person seems really great. And then you find out that they'll throw all their scoop girls out for a fucking band. Like, who gives a shit, man? Like, go see them anywhere else. They're playing in Austin 2 nights from now. I'll pay for your gas. Just don't go to this place. And it is.
Well, that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with sobriety.
No. But what I'm saying is that, like, no. There is no... It's been hard to date. Oh, it's been totally hard
because you're aware of all the things.
Yeah, because like that's the one thing that you immediately realize is, oh, you don't really want to talk to drunk people, or your friends get drunk and you notice how annoying drunk people are.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
And
sometimes.
and then it's like when you go.
I'm good at first. I'm just not good when it gets like blackout. Because it gets really loud.
I would assume with guys it would be a nightmare because you're still kind of waiting for them to perform to some degree, and like, you know. But no, I've had sober. Well, maybe we shouldn't talk about that. So, well, I will say
sober sex with a very drunk person is not fun. No, and I'm not going to pretend.
And I've done that before too. And like when I first stopped and I was single, it happened in San Antonio, and I was just like, yeah, this can never happen.
Like I don't
again.
care if you're drunk, but yeah, if they're like really drunk, it's just like I'm not okay with this. It feels weird.
And then once you're far removed from it, you don't even remember. And then like, God, it'll take 5 years down the road, and you'll be like, oh shit, was I this terrible at this? Like, you know, so.
I think I just got to walk around coffee shops and keep dropping things. I don't know. This is all new to me.
I mean, I think it's just, I don't know. Because even, there is no answer. I don't have an answer for you.
God damn it, David. This podcast is over.
I'm sorry. It's just, there's a thing where.
It's a long setup for me to figure out how to date people.
I legitimately don't know. Like, I mean, I kind of feel like this. I mean, you're attractive. I would assume if you approach some dude in a restaurant, you're good, unless he's got a wife or something, you know. So
I think I don't know how to do that sober.
Well, I think it's just like
thing.
Okay, this happened the other night. I got hit on, and then a friend of mine was like, "That girl was hitting on you." I was like, "Was she?" Just because it's like I guess that's not where my head is anymore. Forever it was. Forever it was just kind of like. I mean, I wasn't trying to be Wilt Chamberlain, but I was definitely giving him a run for his money.
You just made me realize I don't know who Wilt Chamberlain is. Because
basketball player, he slept with something like 5,000
Okay,
women.
I was thinking of what's his
10
face
or something like that.
did all the wars.
I don't know, like just like John Holmes, some porn star slept with like 20,000 women. It's not even my number's not close to that. But what I'm saying is that I was like, I was like getting like an HIV test like every 60 days just in case, you know. I'm like,
okay.
Oh. Well, I mean, I do have a relative that passed away due to HIV, and so it made it like way more. And it was in the 80s, but you're just like, oh, I gotta make sure I still wear a condom, but I don't know, you know. And so you're just kind of. And I mean, and the interesting thing is now, like I meet women all the time. They're like, wait, why are you gonna wear a condom? And in my head, I'm all like, this is over with.
No,
you know, like this is not gonna work.
That is concerning.
Right. But I think it's a new thing. I think people are just like kind of like they forgot that you can die. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
I mean, but still, like herpes, maybe you don't die, but you're bumpy forever. I'm not like, I'm not herpes shaming on people get super PC.
Without getting into the comedy community here in Houston and talking about herpes, I mean, we all know somebody that has herpes, or you and I know somebody. We know multiple people.
No, I know that. And I know people get super whatever. I'm not saying that, but why would you put yourself in that position?
I don't understand that either, but I'm just saying that like it's a thing where somebody and you're like, whoa, really?
Okay, switch over. Chlamydia, whatever the fuck.
Right.
All the things.
Right.
There's plenty of things to not get.
What the fuck? Like, damn, I thought this was going to go different.
People are going to Google.
No, there isn't. Oh, fuck, I didn't even mean it like that. We should probably take that out.
Okay.
Oh, shit. I didn't mean it like that.
I'm taking. I was joking, but I'm taking.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't.
It's fine.
Yeah, no.
The point
of
this podcast is supposed to be to help people, and I might be making them sound like it's scary or something.
No, I think that you basically are gonna look. I know. I have friends that have met in bookstores or been set up. I mean, I kind of think you look around at your friends.
I think, to be fair, I understand that I have a unique situation. I think that other people meet each other at work and jobs and meetings and things like that. I work for myself. I produce these shows, and so everybody that I know, I hire.
Right.
And that's not a situation I want to get into.
Or they work at the venue, or they're a liquor rep.
And so I have a very small bubble, even though I have like a million acquaintances, but a very small bubble as far as like work and stuff is concerned. So I think I don't have those interactions with people. And then the rest of the time, I'm just working at home all day, every day.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. And it's a thing where we don't have so I just told this to a kid that shoots photos for me, and he's 18, and I was just like, oh, you graduated already? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh man, I meant to tell you that high school is like the greatest dating pool you'll ever live in. And I was like, and maybe college a little bit more because you have a little more freedom. But I was like, when you get out in the real world, it's very difficult to meet people. And
we have opposite experiences, David.
But it's not a. No. I'm saying I look back. I wasn't in high school. No, it was like a total dork.
No, I know, but I know that you don't know that because I went to school in San Antonio. I had one boyfriend from 8th grade until I was 21.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so it was not a good relationship. It was actually quite abusive, but yay, not there anymore.
Right.
So, but I didn't know any better, and so I didn't have like the high school or the college experience.
Okay.
I went on my first date at like 25.
Wow.
Because we broke up, and then I was terrified of everybody for a long time because you're a stranger. Why would I give you my number? Crazy.
Right.
And so I had a lot of like walls up. And so, I was like 25 before I went on a date. And so I have a very different experience.
No. But you're asking how to meet people. You did learn how to meet people, but was it always that pattern of either get drunk, hook up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's what I said. This is new. So, I broke up. Me and my ex broke up last fall. And so it's only been whatever it is now, 10 months or so, where I'm like, okay, how do I sober do this? My entire adult relationship, everything has been, we met at a bar and I was drunk.
Right.
So that's, and I know that's not healthy. I'm not pretending it is, but that's just the pattern that I have. And so I don't know how healthy people connect.
Here's what I will say, and not to make a game of it, but my older brother was like the king. He was like David Lee Roth in 1975. He was like the dude that could walk into any bar and be like, I'm going to fuck your girlfriend.
See, I was like that, but a girl.
And that all comes to one thing. He told me when I was 17, he's like, oh, when you turn 18, I'll tell you what the secret is. Mm-hmm. And he literally said one word. He was like, confidence.
Yep. Yeah,
he's like, when you walk into a room, you should kind of be like, I'm here. You know, not in an arrogant way, just kind of like, I'm here. Mm-hmm. So shit can begin. And like...
Yeah, I used to walk into bars and just pick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's a similar thing. If you see someone that you think is attractive, you should walk up to them and say, hey, I like that book too, or whatever the hell they're holding.
I don't like books, David. Let's stop that.
Really, read a lot of books either. But no, but I'm saying like, or like, I mean, come on, you're in a restaurant, you're standing at the counter, somebody orders a barbacoa taco, and you literally like, hey, I was going to get barbacoa too.
I do love barbacoa. You know
too.
Me now.
Yeah. There used to be a place in the San Antonio Riverwalk Mall, and it was like weird because it was like a cart. Mm-hmm. And that guy had the best barbacoa ever.
Oh my God. So there was a place on the southwest side of San Antonio that's what they were known for. They had like 20 different kinds of barbacoa, and it was set up like a cafeteria style where it was just all of these pots of meat to choose from. And so if people don't know, barbacoa is like the cow's cheek meat.
Carne de chiches.
But chiches? Isn't that tits?
What is cheek? This guy told me once, and I thought I could have sworn okay, well, he said chiches, so I was like, okay.
No,
I did live in Mexico City at one point.
Have you been saying that forever?
No.
Okay,
I'm always just like, it's cheek meat. Yeah. But he might not have known the word for cheek. I don't know what it is.
I think he was fucking with you, David.
He probably was. But, well, no, I'll tell you what it was. I was in Mexico. My father was saying it's barbecue, and I'm like, no, it's not, goddammit, it's face meat. And he's like, oh, how do you know? I was like, because I've watched them carve it and cook it.
Yeah, it's cheek meat, but there's a lot of different ways that they do filler. And so at this one place, they'll have the side that the filler is brisket, and then the other one it's eyeballs, and the other one it's tongue, and so you have all the different consistencies of the barbacoa. It is so fucking good.
It's great, and it's soft, and it's a little oily.
Oh, if it's good, it's very oily. You should be able to see through that tortilla.
Yeah, and so Now, here's the thing. You said Southwest San Antonio. I'm a white guy, so we just didn't go to that side of San Antonio. Because it's like there's a little bit of gang activity over there.
Yeah,
so
that's where I grew up. It was trailer park on Southwest Loop 410.
You go over there for jail, and that's it. Like, you don't really have any other reason. By the way, in San Antonio, after I said how great their jail is, I will tell you this, and this is bullshit. I got picked up on a ticket that I'd taken care of again, and I was like, hey, man, you know, like, I need to call my attorney, and I call him. He shows up, and he's like, yo, he's free to go. And they're like, cool. It took 3 hours to process me. So they picked me up at 4 in the afternoon. It was like midnight. They cut me loose. They took the batteries out of my cell phone because this is before smartphones, so I had like a Motorola Razr or some shit like that. And they took all my cash and gave me a check for my cash.
What?
How is
that allowed?
They took my cigarettes like fucking assholes. And I just had a Zippo and my house keys. So I walked home in a fucking pimpish shit D&G suit with Italian loafers. And this is when I realized to make a giant leap in life. And I swear this is true. There's this homeless dude, and I see him, and he's smoking. And I go, hey, man, do you have a cigarette? And he's like, he kind of like, you know, holds up a soft pack and shakes it till one comes out. And I go, are you going to be here tomorrow? And he's like, where am I going to go? I was like, okay. I walked all the way home to my house from the jail to my house in Olmos Park, which is old San Antonio, and got home. You know, wife was pissed, whatever. Got up in the morning, got in the car, drove down to that homeless dude and gave him $500.
Oh my God.
Because he had nothing I looked at it like he had nothing in the world except cigarettes.
I'm surprised he even told you he had any, honestly. I've said I'm all out way more times than I was out.
He might have been loaded or something. I don't know, you know, like, but he didn't even look at me. He just kind of held up the pack and shook him till one come out. And so I've always kind of referred back to that moment as like a turning point where you just go, I'm just going to be good to everybody.
Yeah.
If they suck, let them be the asshole, you know? And yeah, I will say things sometimes and people are just like, I can't believe you said that. But it all comes from the same place, which is you're responsible for your life. Everything that happens, you're responsible for. All the contacts I have are through very hard work and not sharing that contact list and just kind of keeping those people, you're doing whatever you do. And any success I've had, but life is like Vegas. Nobody hears about the times you lost $5,000. And that's what my life is like. All my bad decisions are on me, literally. And I have no problem saying that. And that is a thing that sobriety gives you, is that you go, oh, it's my fault if I don't know, get kicked out of a bar. And so...
Yes, I definitely blamed everybody for everything until afterwards and realized, it's on the wins and the losses.
Yeah.
It's all on me.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like if you're a record producer, like, and you make 5 fire albums and then you drop a really terrible one. You got to take the credit for the bad one just as much as you do for the ones that sell millions of copies. And
Absolutely.
so... it's the same way with life. And so when people kind of are like, oh, well, I mean, like, it's not really nowadays, but for a long time people would say, oh, well, they're drunk, you know, and now that's not really allowed as an excuse in today's society. But you kind of look at it like, no, man, like everything I did when I was drunk, it's still me.
Yeah.
And I was a blackout drinker.
Oh, me too.
So I wouldn't even remember stuff.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah, that was definitely a big part of the problem. Well, it depended on what I drank, because it was whiskey would be like 2 shots in and I would completely black out, but go on for like hours and hours and hours and hours. Everything else, it would just kind of get hazy. Yeah,
and I mean, I tried all kind of... you're luckier than me in a way, because you wanted to quit. I didn't want to. I was like, I'm fine. You know, I'm good. I can pay all my bills. It was kind of like when I quit smoking cigarettes. Somebody's like, well, why'd you smoke for so long? I was like, well, it's not like I couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually smoked way more than I ever smoked when I quit drinking, because I was like, fuck it, I'm allowed one vice. And so I started chain smoking.
That's how I looked at it too.
Oh, yeah. But I kept saying I was going to quit, and I didn't. Ended up getting a biopsy for an unrelated situation. I'm fine, thankfully. But when you're freaking out for 2 weeks thinking you have cancer, it's a lot easier to just stop smoking.
Right. No, it's true. No, I quit refined sugar in like about 3 months ago, and because I'd look at every year you get older, you have to give up something you love. And so,
are you judging the pile of sugar next
no,
to me
no,
right
I'm
now?
not. I'm not. Because I mean, everybody I knew thought I couldn't do it, but everybody that I knew that when I said I was going to quit smoking thought I couldn't also. And I used to tell people that I could quit drinking. I just couldn't. When I drank, I was like, oh, I could quit this tomorrow. Cigarettes, I could, because I liked smoking. And so, but I was in my office. My left eye started to hurt. I asked my assistant, I said, hey, what's it mean when your eye hurts? She's like, I don't know, call your doctor. So I called him, and he literally goes, oh, you're probably getting ready to have a stroke. And I was like, what? And he's like, well, you've been smoking since I've seen you for like 10 years, which I'd been smoking since I was 18. So at this time, I'm like 39. And he goes, if you quit before your 40th birthday, your lungs will regenerate, back to what they were before you smoked. And I don't know if that's true or whatever. But somehow or another, he's like, you have high blood pressure. And he goes, it's weird because your diet is pretty solid. He's like, and you exercise, but you still smoke. And he's like, if you quit smoking, you'll be fine. And he's like, look, I can't say you're going to have a stroke right now. Go to Walgreens and do the arm cuff thing and call me back with the numbers. And I call him, and he goes, you're not going to have one now, but you might have one in a week.
Sounds like maybe he was full of shit.
No.
But
I think he was real.
But he got you to quit, so good.
I looked it up later and realized that I had alarmingly high numbers.
Okay.
And so for blood pressure. And so I quit.
This sounds questionable.
I quit, and it's funny. He said, as your doctor, I can't tell you to go get a vape, but as somebody that knows you and somebody that tried the nicotine inhaler and the patch and the gum, I would say go get a vape.
I've heard a lot of people quit with that.
And so that's what I did. Still vape, which is not the best idea, but whatever. He said, I can't tell you that vaping is healthy, but I know it's healthier than smoking. And so I quit, and it's been about 3.5 years. And every now and again, I'll have a cigarette, but it's like so gross. I like in the middle, like first puff, I'm like, why did I think this is a good idea? This is so disgusting. And I don't know about you. Did you get to go back to your vehicle?
Oh no, it was completely smashed. My boyfriend at the time, they let him go back because he was supposed to, I guess, pull out some papers out of it, and so I didn't get to go through that and see it. But I was told, I know it was told it was upside down. So here's what happened: I drove. What I was told happened is I went skidded into a ditch, freaked out, pushed the gas instead of the brake. And so slammed on that, and then I hit some sort of pipe down there. So then I flipped in the ditch so hard that I then flipped out of the ditch and landed back on the street.
So I just hit city property. I hit it like a guardrail.
Oh, no.
Underneath an overpass.
I fucked up our neighbor's yard.
I've never told anybody this, but this is real. I didn't cheat. But I went to a bar, and we were having problems. I took my ring off and put it in my ashtray. And the reason I wrecked is because I was trying to get it out of the ashtray.
Oh, my God.
And looked up and just hit this thing and skid. So I wrecked...
That's so much like symbolism, though, David.
I know. I wrecked an S63, which, if you don't know what that is, that's a Mercedes S-Class with a 6.3-liter V12 in it, okay? So the car is designed, when you hit your brakes especially, the engine's supposed to go underneath the car. But I just ran into something. So when I went to go to my car like 2 days later, and it'd been at a dealership, fucked up, airbags deployed. Actually, they didn't. The side ones did, but the front one didn't for some reason. I remember, one, the car smelled like alcohol. I hadn't been drinking in the car, but you sweat and it gets in the leather and whatnot. And two, I could see the engine through the air conditioning vents.
Oh, my God.
So I'm like insanely lucky. I mean, it does have a thing there to keep the engine from coming in the car, but still, I mean, I hit it really hard. I was probably running 60. And like, I mean, it was... I look back at a lot of things and go, oh, I'm lucky I didn't go to jail or I didn't die. I think of all the dumb shit I did when I was drinking, jumping off a bridge with a bungee cord and the cord was longer than the bridge.
David, what?
Yeah, I just broke like 2 fingers.
Did you land on your 2 fingers like a cartoon?
No. The water was deep, but I still hit bottom, and I broke like 2 of my pinky and my ring finger.
Oh, okay. It was over water.
Yeah. No. It wasn't on concrete. Sorry. No.
I pictured you like a cartoon, just stopping yourself with your fingers.
Totally jumping into water by dams suck water out and stuff, and like almost getting like sucked into a turbine, and totally jumping in all kind of water shit, jumping into swells, jumping off of like
You
mountains
have a
into the
drinking
ocean.
problem. You have a water problem.
Like jumping, being in like Kauai and jumping into this thing where these kids were scared. These kids that lived there their whole lives were scared to jump into this waterfall, and I just did it, you know?
Jesus Christ.
So, and that was all because I was like drunken and fearless. And so nowadays when I go to do something fearless, like, I don't know, a month ago, these kids were skating near my house and I was like, oh, I'm going to show them how to do this. And right as I'm going to jump up, in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? You've got a mortgage, you know? Like, I still did it and didn't land it.
You
But
thought about it.
Yeah, but it's just like you totally notice. The thing that I've noticed more than anything is that you notice what drunk people are like because you're around them. Our industries, your industry and mine, are both the same, and the music industry is fueled by alcohol. I mean,
Yeah,
you go
absolutely.
and you go to a venue and there's a placard with a beer name on it, and tours are sponsored by beer and liquor companies, and we can't get anything done without these sponsors, and I'm not bad-mouthing them at all.
No, absolutely not. No,
Like, I'm not.
I
Like-
appreciate the sponsors that I've had so much because I couldn't have taken my shows to the production level that they became without their help.
Right.
But I will say I'm getting into this place, and I can talk to you about this now. I am getting into this place where I am questioning that because this podcast is really important to me. I don't know how many people are going to listen to it. I don't know what it's going to do.
Right.
But it's important to me because when I quit drinking, I very rarely talked about it online because
Right.
of the sponsorship and because I was like, I don't want to be sober, KiKi. I just want to be KiKi. But whenever I would kind of allude to it or do some sort of post or tweet, kind of almost saying something, I would get so many messages from people that either quit and were like, oh my God, I had no idea you were too, or wanted to quit and were asking, how did you do it?
Right.
Do you have any advice? And that just means a lot to me, that I want to be able to help people and to share that and to share the story. And so this is really important to me to do this. But at the same time, I do have that fear of like, okay, I should no longer accept.
You don't want to be part of the
perhaps.
problem.
Exactly.
But then this is how I look at it.
It's very
So I used to feel the
confusing.
same way. I've done events for Red Bull, and I fucking hate that product. I like the blue one, the all blue one.
Oh, yeah,
I
the
like
blueberry.
that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I like that one. But yeah, I mean, and they pay really well. I'm like, okay, I get this much and an airline round trip. Oh, and you're going to give me like an iPad too? Fuck, okay, I'll go do that.
I want that.
But there's advertising everywhere, and at the end of the day, and this is, I don't put this on any liquor company, I don't put this on any bartender. I'm the one that ordered the drink. They're not putting it in my hand. They're not going, and every liquor rep I've ever met was never like, oh, you're sober? You don't want to drink? They're always like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
and that was it. Because
I agree.
unfortunately, they don't see me as someone to push a product on because they know it's useless, you know? And so, and I'm not saying they think this way, but I think they think this way of like, oh, okay, so we can be cool, but I'm not going to try to sell you on a new product because you're useless. You know,
Yeah.
you're not the person I'm trying, you're not my demographic, if you will. So
I just worry that it's sending conflicting messages if I'm going to be like, oh, there's this podcast talking about sobriety, and then it's like, oh, so-and-so event, sponsored by so-and-so.
I think your best bet would be to find someone that has a safe ride program through a liquor sponsor. Oh. Like Jack Daniels presents the Safe Ride Home app,
That's interesting. I wrote that
In
down.
fact, you can actually you can ask one of your liquor friends if they will sponsor a code through Lyft or somebody like that where you get a free ride. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome.
I like that.
But no, I don't think you're, I mean, Mark Maron has a podcast, and it's like he's got everything from stamps.com to I don't know, Adam and Eve sex toys, and I mean,
Yeah.
there's a theory in this country that pornography is horrible and it destroys lives. If you go to Missouri near like I can't remember.
I don't go to Missouri anymore.
I know, yeah. Well, my ex-wife is from there, but like
My ex-boyfriend's from there.
near Fort Leonard Wood, there's a whole bunch of strip clubs and porn theaters, and there are billboards like 5 miles outside of town that have little girls praying next to beds, and it says, "Don't forget, porn destroys lives."
Oh, my God.
I don't think porn is bad. I think it's healthy for people to, because either you're in a loveless marriage or you just have a wild imagination or there's stuff your spouse won't let you do or whatever it is for them to get that out instead of it manifesting itself into something worse. So I think porn is great. But
Okay, so you want me to get porn money. Got it.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. David
you
says,
can totally do it.
Get the porno money.
I mean, I would assume that it's there, you know.
I guess that's been my mentality up until now, was like, it's okay because at the end of the day, this money is going to pay for artists. You know,
Right.
I'm hiring independent contractors and I'm trying to help further a whole bunch of things. But I guess I started to wonder if that was a cop-out, that
It's
I was
not.
just saying that, but it was going against what I thought. I don't know. I'm very confused.
It's not, because I'll tell you like 5 things. One, we all love tacos. Tacos are terrible for you. You know that. It's cholesterol. Corn is not good for you.
We're not going to agree on this,
you know?
David.
Corn is terrible
No.
for you.
You can get flour.
You can get flour. You're right. But tacos, it's not that they're unbelievably unhealthy, but like as a general rule, like they're not the most healthy thing. They're not as healthy as a salad.
This is the second time I've had to say this podcast is over, David.
This is one secret I will give you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to get Gatorade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gatorade doesn't have to advertise,
Mm-hmm.
but Powerade does.
Oh,
Powerade
yeah.
would love to be Gatorade.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier
So
to
I
get
gotta
money
go
from
after
number
the
2 or number
Powerade.
3 or number 4 than number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I mean, you can't. I don't think you should be judged. I know you to be a good person.
Well, thank you. I agree.
I would say most of the people I know in burlesque are good people.
Yeah, you
There
don't
was
know
a-
most of them. So, okay, final ask. I'm still working on this, so we got to like figure out. I don't know if this is going to stay the final ask
Sure.
for the whole podcast.
You're good.
But if you could snap your fingers and around the world, instantly, people believe 2 things. What would they be? The only thing is that one has to be good for humanity, for the world, for everything. The other one has to be completely self-serving.
The one for the world would be to get rid of intolerance, like across the board, and that's everything: racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia.
Oh, I thought you were talking about poop.
No. No, that's incontinence.
Damn it.
Who cares what people do? Who cares how they're born? Who cares who they love?
I feel like it definitely feels like we're moving that way,
I have a
though.
bias against idiocy. And that's what I don't like. You want to ask, like, who do you hate? I was like, I hate people that hate people. You know,
I like
because
that.
it's just like
That's a bumper sticker, David. I hate people that hate people.
It's true, though. I mean, like, you just can't. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I've always kind of felt like the reason some people hate other people is because they've never had them as neighbors. You know?
I think that's going to be within our lifetime. I would like to believe.
I hope so. And then if I do one self-serving thing, I would probably be that some rumors was that, like, you know, that guy's the best lover ever. It would be something like that.
So if people want to follow you, find you, read your articles, where can they do that?
Read articles on HoustonPress.com, the music section. Instagram is David Garrick Awesome. I don't know how to change the name. I know you can, but I don't know how to do it. There is a David Garrick, actually, because the guy hit me up. And I was just kind of like, okay, dude, like, I don't want to tell you. Like, he asked for a friend request, and I've kind of gotten weird about friend requests lately. So I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. Like,
You sound kind of shady with that name.
yeah, I don't know. It was just weird. I'm sure that's his, name, and it's fine. I remember one time looking it up, and there was like 27 in the world. And I was just kind of like, I should write down their info in case, I walk a credit card bill one day. It was them. They're the one.
I am not endorsing that
No,
idea on this
no.
podcast.
That was like 10 years ago when I thought that. So.
But David, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
It was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more for now.
I'm probably going to change that final question. I felt like I needed one to make all the episodes cohesive, but people get really weird about being selfish. I don't know. Anyway, that was David Garrick. I hope you liked it. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Android, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to it. The reviews are how they know that it's, legit, I guess. And so it helps get the show into more directories. So that's how you can help right now. Thank you so much for listening. I love you, and I will be back next week.
Now it's the last call for heaven's train. If only you weren't too late.
Yeah, we got it.